The silk of the wedding dress felt less like fabric and more like a shroud. It was heavy, encrusted with enough pearls to pay off a small nation's debt, and it constricted Anna's ribs until each breath was a shallow, stolen thing. She stood before the floor-to-ceiling mirror in the bridal suite of the Grand Hyatt Seoul, staring at a stranger. The woman in the reflection was perfect. Porcelain skin, lips painted a bruised shade of crimson, dark hair swept up into an intricate chignon that defied gravity. But Anna did not see the beauty. She saw the weapon hidden in the architecture of her hair. A hairpin, 6 inches of sharpened ceramic, undetectable by metal detectors, lethal in the right hands. Her hands were steady. They always were. Anna, a voice rasped from the doorway. It was her father, Nikolai. He did not look like a father today, he looked like a handler sending an asset into the field. His tuxedo was ill-fitting, straining across his broad, bullish shoulders. It is time. Anna did not turn. She watched him in the mirror, seeing the greed that coated his eyes like a film. Is the transfer complete? Half now. Half when the job is done, Nikolai said, stepping into the room. The scent of stale tobacco and nervous sweat followed him. Tonight, Anna. When you are alone. No hesitation. You cut the head off the snake, and the John clan falls into chaos. Then we take everything. And if I fail? Then you are no daughter of mine. The words did not hurt. That part of her had died years ago, calcified under layers of training and neglect. Anna turned, the silk rustling like dry leaves. I will not fail. The ballroom was a cavern of gold light and shadowed corners, filled with the dangerous elite of 2 continents. On the left, the brutal, boisterous energy of the Russian bratva. On the right, the calculated, silent menace of the Korean syndicate. It was a wedding of necessity, a peace treaty written in ink but sealed in blood. And at the altar stood the target. John Ho-suk. Anna had memorized his file, but the paper reality did no justice to the physical man. He was taller than she expected, standing with a stillness that made the air around him seem to vibrate. He wore a tuxedo cut with razor-sharp precision, black on black, fitting for a funeral rather than a wedding. His hair was swept back, revealing a face that was devastating in its symmetry and terrifying in its emptiness. High cheekbones that could cut glass, eyes the color of burnt espresso, and a mouth set in a line of absolute indifference. As Anna walked down the aisle, the gaze of 300 killers weighed on her skin, pricking like needles. But she only felt him. John Ho-suk watched her approach not with the adoration of a groom, but with the analytical detachment of a predator watching prey enter a trap. When she reached the altar, he extended a hand. His fingers were long, elegant, and cold. You look. His voice was a low baritone, vibrating through her chest bone. He paused, tilting his head slightly as if decoding a complex puzzle. Expensive. It was not a compliment. It was an appraisal. I imagine I cost you a great deal, Anna replied, her voice steady, though her pulse hammered against her throat like a trapped bird. Value is subjective, moi anget, he said, the Russian endearment rolling off his tongue with a flawless, mocking accent. Let us see if you are worth the price. The ceremony was a blur of meaningless words. Anna went through the motions, her mind dissecting the men beside her. She noted the way he stood, weight balanced on the balls of his feet, ready to move. She saw the slight bulge under his jacket, a shoulder holster. She saw the tattoo peeking out from his collar, black ink climbing up the side of his neck in elegant Hangul script. Loyalty. A cruel irony for a man she was about to betray. When the officiant asked for the rings, Ho-suk took her hand. His touch was dry, firm. As he slid the platinum band onto her finger, he squeezed, just for a fraction of a second. It was not a squeeze of affection. It was a warning. A clamping of jaws. I have you. The reception was an exercise in suffocation. The air was thick with tension, the laughter too loud, the toasts too aggressive. Anna sat beside her new husband at the head table, barely touching the food. Her stomach was a knot of cold iron. Every time he moved, she flinched internally, her muscles coiled to strike. You are not eating, Ho-suk noted, not looking at her. He was swirling a glass of dark liquor, watching the room. I'm not hungry. Nerves. He finally turned to her. Up close, his eyes were abyssal. There was no light in them, only a profound, ancient exhaustion. Or perhaps you are simply calculating the best time to leave. Anna froze. I am your wife. I am not going anywhere. My wife, he repeated, testing the word like it was a foreign coin. Yes. That is what the papers say. He stood up, the movement fluid and commanding. The room fell silent instantly. The power he held was somatic, it pressed down on the shoulders of every man in the room. Dance with me. It was not a question. On the dance floor, he pulled her close. Too close. His hand splayed across the small of her back, burning through the silk. Anna had to tilt her head back to look at him. His scent invaded her senses, sandalwood, gunpowder, and something sharp and metallic, like rain on hot pavement. Your father looks anxious, Ho-suk murmured, spinning her effortlessly. He keeps checking his watch. He worries about me, Anna lied. Does he? Ho-suk pulled her into a dip, his face inches from hers. For a moment, the world narrowed down to his dark eyes and the pulse beating visibly in his neck. That was the spot. One clean strike with the ceramic pin. Carotid artery. 3 minutes to bleed out. I think he worries about the money. He thinks once the transaction is verified, he will be safe. I do not know what you talking about. Of course you do not. He righted her, his grip tightening on her hand until her knuckles ached. You are just the innocent bride. The peace offering. They moved in silence for a moment, the music a slow, mourning wail of strings. Anna felt the ceramic pin pressing against her scalp. It was time. The reception would end soon. They would go to the penthouse. She needed to prepare herself. She needed to turn her heart into stone. You are trembling, Anna, he whispered, his lips brushing her ear. The sensation sent a shiver of pure, unadulterated terror down her spine. Are you cold? Or are you realizing that you have walked into a room with no exits? I'm fine, she choked out. He pulled back, studying her face with that unnerving intensity. Then, he did something that stopped her heart. He reached up and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers grazing the hidden head of the ceramic pin. He did not pull it out. He just brushed it, acknowledging its existence. Good, he said softly. Because the night is just beginning. The penthouse was a fortress of glass and steel overlooking the Han River. It was beautiful, sterile, and cold. The silence here was different from the ballroom, it was heavy, pregnant with unspoken violence. Ho-suk had dismissed his security team at the door. Leave us, he had commanded, and they had vanished like smoke. Now, it was just the two of them. Ho-suk walked to the wet bar, pouring 2 glasses of water. He loosened his tie, the silk hissing as he pulled it from his collar. He looked human for the first time, tired, the lines of strain around his eyes deepening. Drink, he said, placing a glass on the marble island. You look like you are about to faint. Anna stood by the entrance, her dress feeling like armor that had become a cage. I'm not thirsty. Drink the water, Anna. It is not poisoned. That would be too easy. He took a sip of his own, watching her over the rim of the glass. Anna approached slowly, her hand drifting to her hair. This was it. There were no witnesses. No guards. Just a tired man and a sharp object. She reached for the glass with her left hand, while her right hovered near her neck. Why did you agree to this? She asked, her voice sounding hollow in the vast room. To the marriage? He set his glass down. Because my advisors told me it was the only way to secure the port territory without a war. And I am tired of war. And you trust my father? Ho-suk laughed. It was a dry, dark sound. I do not trust anyone who sells their own flesh and blood for territory. He walked around the island, moving into her personal space. The air pressure dropped. But I was curious about the merchandise. He stopped a foot away from her. He was too close. If she struck now, he could not dodge. Go take a shower, he said, turning his back to her to look out the window. You smell like fear. It's distracting. Rage flared in Anna's chest, hot and blinding. It burned away the hesitation. She was not merchandise. She was not a scared girl. She was a weapon. Silently, she pulled the pin from her hair. The ceramic was cool against her palm. She took a step forward. He was looking at the city lights, his neck exposed. The tattoo, loyalty, seemed to taunt her. One strike. She lunged. It happened so fast her brain could not process the mechanics of it. One moment she was driving the spike toward his neck, the next, the world flipped. Ho-suk spun with supernatural speed. He did not block the blow, he caught her wrist in midair. His grip was like a steel vice, crushing the delicate bones. Anna gasped, the pain shooting up her arm like lightning. She tried to kick him, but he swept her legs out from under her, slamming her back against the marble island. The impact knocked the wind out of her. Before she could inhale, he was on her. He pinned her body with his hips, his hand still crushing her wrist, holding the lethal pin inches from his own face. He did not look angry. He did not look surprised. He looked disappointed. Sloppy, he whispered. He twisted her wrist. A sickening crack echoed in the room. Anna cried out, her fingers spasming, and the ceramic pin clattered to the floor. Ho-suk did not let go. He leaned in, his face inches from hers. She could feel the heat radiating off him, a furnace beneath the ice. Did you really think I did not know? He asked, his voice calm, conversational. Did you think I let the daughter of Nikolai Volkov into my bed without checking her for claws? Kill me then, Anna spat, adrenaline masking the pain in her wrist. Do it. Kill you. Ho-suk tilted his head, the ghost of a smile playing on his lips. Why would I damage my investment so early? He released her wrist and stepped back, picking up the ceramic pin. He examined it under the light. Ceramic. Smart. Invisible to scanners. Fragile against bone, though. You would have had to hit the soft tissue perfectly. He tossed the pin into the trash like it was a candy wrapper. My father. Anna began, clutching her swelling wrist. Your father, Ho-suk interrupted, his voice dropping to a terrifying chill, is currently being arrested by Interpol. Or rather, the men on my payroll who look like Interpol. By morning, his assets will be frozen. By noon, his territory will be mine. The blood drained from Anna's face. You set him up. I set a trap, Ho-suk corrected. And he walked right into it, dragging you with him. He walked back to her, reaching out. Anna flinched, expecting a blow. Instead, he took her injured hand. His touch was surprisingly gentle now, probing the joint with clinical efficiency. It's not broken. Just a severe sprain. It will bruise. He looked into her eyes, and for the first time, Anna saw something other than darkness. She saw a strange, twisted form of recognition. You have nowhere to go, Anna. Your father is gone. The Russians will think you betrayed them. The police will be looking for accomplices. He released her hand and stepped back, straightening his cuffs. You are legally my wife. You are trapped in my house. And you just tried to assassinate the head of the John clan. He walked toward the bedroom door, pausing at the threshold. Get some sleep. We have a long life ahead of us. And Anna. She looked up, trembling with rage and terror. Next time you try to kill me, John Ho-suk said, his eyes gleaming in the dark, try not to hesitate when I touch you. It gives you away. The ice pack on her wrist was so cold it burned, a paradoxical sensation that matched the confusing reality of her existence. Anna sat on the edge of the master bed, the silk sheets pooling around her like spilled mercury. Ho-suk was kneeling in front of her. It was a posture of submission, yet he held all the power. His movements were precise, clinical. He wrapped the bandage around her swollen joint with a dexterity that spoke of practice. Not medical practice, she realized with a jolt of nausea, but the practice of a man who knew how to patch up violence so the fighting could continue. Too tight? He asked, not looking up. It does not matter, Anna whispered. Her voice felt rusted, and used. It matters, he corrected. Cut off the circulation, and the tissue dies. Then the hand becomes useless. I do not like useless things. He secured the clip, his thumb lingering for a second over her pulse point. It was a violation and a caress all at once. There. He stood, towering over her again, the momentary intimacy vanishing like breath on glass. You have not eaten in 2 days, Anna. The staff tells me you throw the trays at the wall. I'm not hungry. Hunger is biological. Denial is psychological. You are waging a war against your own body to spite me. He walked to the window, his silhouette cutting a sharp line against the gray-soul dawn. It is a boring strategy. My father is in a black site in Vladivostok. Ho-suk cut her off. He turned, holding up a manila folder he had retrieved from the desk. He did not just sell you, Anna. He liquidated you. He tossed the folder onto the bed. It slid across the silk, stopping just touching her thigh. Read it. Anna stared at the folder. Her chest felt tight, as if her lungs had turned to stone. With trembling fingers, her left hand, the uninjured one, she opened it. They were transcripts. Wiretaps. Her father's voice captured in ink. The girl is the trigger. Ho-suk will kill her the moment she attacks. She becomes the martyr. We use her death to rally the clans. She was never meant to survive the night. The words blurred. The air in the room seemed to vanish. Anna did not cry, she could not. The betrayal went deeper than tears. It lodged in her gut, a heavy, jagged stone. She had been a bullet, fired and forgotten. He knew, she whispered, the realization tasting like ash. He knew you would kill me. He underestimated me, Ho-suk said, his voice devoid of pity but heavy with fact. He thought I was a butcher. He did not know I am a businessman. He walked back to the bed, sitting beside her. The mattress dipped under his weight. You are not a martyr, Anna. You are a loose end. And right now, the only thing keeping that loose end from being snipped is the ring on your finger. He reached out, tapping the platinum band. You belong to the John clan now. That means your enemies are my enemies. And I do not let my enemies touch what is mine. Anna looked at him. Really looked at him. The lines of fatigue around his eyes, the rigid tension in his shoulders. He was a monster, yes. He had broken her wrist without blinking. But in a world of wolves, he was the only one standing between her and the abyss. What do you want from me? She asked. Compliance, he said simply. Tonight, we attend a gala at the Museum of Modern Art. It is a public display of power. You will wear the dress I bought. You will smile. You will show the world that the union between Russia and Korea is strong. And if I refuse? Ho-suk leaned in, his dark eyes trapping hers. Then you prove your father right. That you are nothing but a disposable tool. The dress was emerald green, backless, and fit like a second skin. It was armor disguised as fashion. As they entered the museum, flashbulbs erupted like silent explosions, blinding and disorienting. Ho-suk's hand was on the small of her back. His touch was firm, grounding. A constant reminder, I have you. Do not run. The gala was a Shark Tank. Men in tuxedos smiled with too many teeth, women in couture judged her with razor-sharp glances. Anna played her part. She smiled until her face ached. She drank champagne that tasted like vinegar. You are doing well, Ho-suk murmured against her hair as they pretended to admire a brutalist sculpture. I feel like I'm suffocating, she confessed, the somatic truth slipping out. Breathe shallow, he advised. The air up here is thin. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. It was subtle, a ripple in the crowd, a change in the static charge of the room. Ho-suk went rigid against her. His hand slid from her back to grip her upper arm, hard. Smile, he commanded, his voice a low vibration. But move toward the exit. Now. What is it? The waiter. The one with the tray of scallops. He is checking the exits, not the guests. Before Anna could process the information, the glass ceiling of the atrium shattered. The sound was deafening, a cacophony of breaking sky. Ropes dropped. Men in tactical gear descended like spiders. The crowd screamed, a singular, terrifying wave of sound. Down. Ho-suk did not ask. He threw her. Anna hit the polished concrete floor, her breath leaving her in a rush. Ho-suk was on top of her instantly, covering her body with his own. Gunfire erupted, chewing up the sculptures, turning art into debris. "Stay down!" Ho-suk roared, pulling a gun from somewhere beneath his jacket. He fired back, 3 controlled shots. A man on a rope went limp, falling into the fountain with a sickening splash. "Who are they?" Anna screamed, covering her head. "Russians," Ho-suk gritted out, reloading with terrifying speed. "Your father's loyalists. They are here to finish the job he started." A bullet chipped the floor inches from Anna's face, sending concrete dust into her eyes. The terror was not abstract anymore, it was a cold, physical thing, clawing at her throat. "We need to move," Ho-suk said. He grabbed her hand, the injured one. Pain flared, white-hot and blinding, but she bit her lip until it bled. "Run, Anna." They scrambled through the chaos, ducking behind pillars. Ho-suk was a whirlwind of violence. He moved with an efficiency that was beautiful and horrifying. He shot a man in the knee, then the throat, clearing a path to the service corridor. They burst into the kitchen. Stainless steel tables, steaming pots, terrified staff cowering in corners. "Back exit," Ho-suk commanded, shoving her forward. The alleyway behind the museum was dark, smelling of wet cardboard and trash. Rain had started to fall, slicking the pavement. "The car is 2 blocks over," Ho-suk said, holstering his weapon to check his phone. "My team is inbound." "Ho-suk behind you." Anna saw the shadow detach itself from the dumpster before he did. It was instinct, pure and stupid. She did not think, she moved. She shoved Ho-suk. It was not a hard shove, but it was enough to throw him off balance. The knife that was meant for his kidney sliced through the air where he had been a second ago. But the attacker was fast. He corrected his arc, slashing outward. The blade caught Anna across the forearm. She did not feel the pain at first. She just felt the impact, like being hit with a baseball bat. She stumbled back, falling onto the wet asphalt. Ho-suk roared, a sound that was not human. It was the sound of a predator whose territory had been breached. He did not shoot the attacker, he dismantled him. He caught the man's arm, snapping the elbow with a wet crack, then drove his knee into the man's chest with enough force to collapse the ribcage. The attacker hit the ground and did not move. Ho-suk spun around, dropping to his knees beside her. "Anna." His voice was wrecked. He looked at her arm. The slash was deep. Blood, bright, arterial red, was pulsing out, mixing with the rain on the black pavement. "You stupid woman," he hissed, but his hands were frantic. He ripped off his tuxedo tie, then his shirt, tearing the expensive fabric into strips. "Why did you do that?" "I do not know," Anna gasped. The pain was hitting her now, a tidal wave of fire. The world was graying at the edges. "I do not know." He wrapped the makeshift tourniquet around her arm, pulling it tight. His face was pale, his dark hair plastered to his forehead by the rain. The mask of the cold businessman was gone. In its place was raw, naked panic. "Look at me," he commanded, cupping her face with blood-slicked hands. "Stay with me, Anna. You do not get to die. I do not give you permission." Heavy," she mumbled, her eyes drifting shut. "Anna." He slapped her cheek lightly. "Open your eyes." Headlights swept into the alley. Tires screeched. Doors slammed. "Boss." It was his second in command, a man named June. "Hospital. Now." Ho-suk shouted, scooping Anna up into his arms. She felt weightless, like a bird with hollow bones. As he carried her to the car, she pressed her face against his bare chest. His heart was hammering against her ear, a frantic, terrified rhythm. He's scared, she thought dimly. The monster is scared. "Hold on," he whispered into her hair as the car sped away, the city lights blurring into streaks of neon. "I have you. I have you." The private clinic was sterile, white, and silent. Anna woke up to the smell of antiseptic and the rhythmic beeping of a monitor. Her arm felt heavy, wrapped in thick bandages. Her other wrist, the sprained one, was braced. She was a collection of broken parts. She turned her head. Ho-suk was sitting in a chair beside the bed. He was still shirtless, his chest smeared with dried blood, hers. He looked like a fallen statue, exhausted and terrible. He was watching her. "You are awake," he said. His voice was gravel. "Did we make it?" "We made it." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "The attackers were dealt with. The message has been sent to Vladivostok." "What message?" "That if they touch you again, I will burn their city to the ground." Anna looked at him. The intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care? I'm just a loose end." Ho-suk stood up and walked to the side of the bed. He reached out, his fingers hovering over her bandaged arm, afraid to touch, afraid to hurt. "You took a knife for me," he said, as if trying to understand the physics of it. "You, who tried to kill me 3 weeks ago, took a knife for me." "I told you," Anna said weakly. "I do not know why." "I do." He sat on the edge of the mattress, careful not to jar her. "Because you are not like them. You are not like your father. You have a soul, Anna. A stupid, reckless, brave soul." He took her uninjured hand, the one with the ring, and pressed it to his lips. His lips were warm, a shocking contrast to the cold fluids entering her veins. "I have spent my life building walls," Ho-suk said quietly, his eyes closed against her skin. "I built an empire of ice to keep the world out. And you just walked right through it." He looked up, and the vulnerability in his expression broke her heart. "Do not ever do that again," he ordered, but his voice cracked. "Do not sacrifice yourself for me. I am the shield. You are the heart. That is the arrangement." "I see not promise that," Anna said. "Try." He brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. "Rest now. I will be here when you wake up. You will not leave." "I am not going anywhere." Anna closed her eyes, the rhythmic beeping of the monitor lullabying her into darkness. For the first time in her life, she did not feel like a weapon or a bargaining chip. She felt precious. But outside the clinic walls, the storm was gathering. The Russians were not the only threat. In the shadows of Seoul, the other clan elders were watching. Ho-suk's display of weakness, his public panic over a foreign wife, had been noted. The golden cage was safe for now. But the wolves were circling, and they smelled blood. The silence in the penthouse was different now. It was no longer the silence of a tomb, but the hushed, fragile quiet of a recovery room. Ho-suk had moved Anna back home against medical advice, hiring a private medical team that operated out of the guest wing. He trusted no one else. Anna sat on the sofa, looking out at the rain-slicked Seoul skyline. Her arm throbbed a dull, rhythmic bass note under the painkillers, but her mind was sharp. Too sharp. She watched Ho-suk pace. He was a caged tiger. He had shed his suits for dark tactical pants and a black t-shirt that clung to the lean muscle of his torso. The tattoo on his neck, loyalty, seemed to pulse with the tension in his veins. He was on the phone, speaking rapid-fire Korean, his voice dropping into registers that made the glass rattle. "No," he growled, ending the call and throwing the phone onto the marble table. It slid, stopping inches from a bowl of untouched fruit. "The elders?" Anna asked. She did not need to look at him to feel the heat of his rage. "They smell blood in the water." Ho-suk stopped pacing and looked at her. His eyes were red-rimmed, he had not slept in 3 days. "They say I am compromised. That a leader who bleeds for a foreign wife is weak. They have called a tribunal." "A tribunal." "A polite word for an execution," he corrected. He walked over to her, kneeling so their eyes were level. He placed his hands on her knees, his touch grounding her. "They want you gone, Anna. They say you are the poison in the well." "Then let me go," she said, though the words tasted like bile. "If I leave." "If you leave, they will kill you before you reach the airport. And then they will kill me for letting you go." His grip tightened, his fingers digging into her skin, possessing her. "There is no leaving, Anna. Not anymore. We are knotted together. So what do we do?" Ho-suk stood up, and a terrifying calm settled over his features. It was the face of the monster she had met at the altar, but now, the monster was on her side. "We go to the tribunal," he said. And I remind them why they feared me in the first place. The meeting place was a traditional hanok deep in the mountains outside Seoul. It was a place of serene beauty, curved tiled roofs, meticulously raked gravel gardens, and the scent of pine and incense. It was a place where death sentences were handed down over tea. Ho-suk drove. No convoy. No guards. Just the two of them in his armored sedan. Stay in the car, Ho-suk ordered as he killed the engine. The gravel crunching beneath the tires sounded like grinding bones. No. Anna opened her door. Her arm was in a sling, her face pale, but her chin was high. I am the poison. If you are going to pour me down their throats, I want to be there to watch them choke. Ho-suk looked at her. For a moment, she thought he would force her back inside. Instead, a flicker of pride, dark, fierce, and possessive, lit his eyes. Stay behind me, he said. If I say run, you run into the forest and you do not look back. They walked through the wooden gates. The courtyard was lined with men in suits, the private armies of the 5 elders. They watched Ho-suk with a mixture of reverence and hunger. They were waiting for the king to fall so they could tear apart the carcass. Inside the main hall, the 5 elders sat on silk cushions. They were old men, their faces mapped with decades of violence disguised as business. In the center sat Elder Kim, the patriarch of the syndicate, a man who looked like a grandfather but had the eyes of a shark. You brought the woman, Elder Kim said, his voice dry as paper, bold. She is my wife, Ho-suk said, stopping in the center of the room. He did not bow. I go nowhere without her. She is a liability, another elder spat. The Russians are in chaos because of her father. By harboring her, you invite war. We voted, Ho-suk. You will hand her over to the Bratva remnants to settle the debt. Or you will forfeit your seat. The air in the room grew heavy, a physical weight pressing against Anna's lungs. She felt the eyes of the men stripping her down to her value as a commodity. Ho-suk laughed. It was not a happy sound. It was the sound of a glacier cracking. Forfeit my seat. He took a step forward. I built this table. I fed you all from my plate. You are distracted, Elder Kim said calmly. Love has made you soft. A soft king gets us all killed. He gestured to the guards lining the walls. It is done, Ho-suk. Step down. Leave the girl. We will let you walk away alive. That is the mercy we offer for your years of service. Ho-suk looked at the guards, 20 men, armed, tense. Then he looked at Anna. He reached out, his hand brushing her cheek, his thumb tracing the line of her jaw. It was a goodbye. I promised you, he whispered to her, ignoring the room. I am the shield. He turned back to the elders. You think I am soft because I found something to protect? Ho-suk asked. His voice dropped an octave, vibrating through the floorboards. You mistake protectiveness for weakness. He reached into his jacket. Every guard raised their weapon. Ho-suk pulled out not a gun, but a tablet. He tossed it onto the low table in front of Elder Kim. What is this? Kim sneered. The keys, Ho-suk said. To everything. The accounts. The encryption keys to the server farms in Macau. The blackmail files on the Prime Minister. The shipping routes. The identity of every laundered asset. Ho-suk unbuttoned his cuffs, rolling up his sleeves with deliberate slowness. And 5 minutes ago, I initiated a transfer. Elder Kim froze. Transfer to whom? To Interpol, Ho-suk smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing Anna had ever seen. And the Korean Frantic Tax Service. And the CIA. The room erupted. The elders scrambled, shouting. You are bluffing. Kim screamed, his composure shattering. You would destroy yourself. You would burn your own empire. I told you, Ho-suk said, his voice cutting through the panic like a blade. I am a businessman. And I have decided to liquidate my assets. He stepped back, grabbing Anna's hand. The upload completes in 2 minutes. If you want to stop it, you need my biometric override. And I am leaving. Kill him. Kim shrieked. Get the tablet. Kill them both. The guards hesitated. They looked at the tablet, the flashing red bar of the upload, and then at Ho-suk. Shoot and the code executes instantly, Ho-suk lied smoothly. Let us walk out, and I paused the timer. It was a standoff. The air tasted of sweat and imminent violence. Ho-suk backed toward the door, his body a wall between Anna and the guns. You are throwing away a kingdom for a woman. Elder Kim gasped, clutching his chest. You are mad. No, Ho-suk said, reaching the threshold. He looked at Anna, and for the first time, the darkness in his eyes cleared, replaced by something blazing and undeniable. I am just finally free. They turned and ran. Behind them, the shouting turned into chaos. But no shots were fired. The greed of the elders was stronger than their bloodlust. They were too busy scrambling over the tablet, trying to save their money, to chase the men who had just set it all on fire. Ho-suk drove like a demon. He tore down the mountain road, tires screaming. He did not stop until they were miles away, pulled over on a cliff overlooking the gray ocean. He killed the engine and slumped over the steering wheel, his breath coming in ragged, harsh gasps. His hands were shaking. You did it, Anna whispered, staring at him. You really did it. You destroyed it all. I had to, he rasped. He turned to her, his face stripped of all masks. It was the only way to get us out. To scrub the target off your back. I had to become nothing so you could be safe. You not nothing, Anna said, fierce tears burning her eyes. She reached out, cupping his face with her good hand. You everything. Ho-suk closed his eyes, leaning into her touch. The tension that had held his body together for 30 years, the tension of the crown, the kill, the empire, finally snapped. He did not break, he melted. He pulled her across the console, burying his face in the crook of her neck. He held her with a desperation that cracked her ribs, inhaling her scent like oxygen. It's over, he murmured against her skin. No more kings. No more bratva. Just us. Just us, Anna echoed. Behind them, far in the distance, sirens began to wail, heading toward the mountain compound. But they were already gone. 3 years later the lake house was in Lucerne, Switzerland. It was small, wooden, and smelled of cedar and cold, fresh water. It was quiet here. No sirens. No gunfire. Only the sound of the wind in the trees and the distant chime of cowbells. Anna stood on the deck, wrapping a thick wool cardigan around herself. The mountain air was crisp. Her arm ached when it rained, a phantom reminder of the alleyway in Seoul, but the scar had faded to a silvery line. She watched the figure down by the water. Ho-suk was chopping wood. He wore simple jeans and a flannel shirt, sleeves rolled up to reveal the muscular forearms that had once strangled men in tuxedos. The tattoo on his neck was still there, but the ink seemed less stark now, softened by the sun. He was not the dragon of Seoul anymore. He was just a man. A man who smiled when he saw her. Coffee, he called out, sticking the axe into the stump. Please. He walked up the path, wiping sweat from his brow. He looked younger. The shadows under his eyes were gone. The calculation in his gaze had been replaced by a serene, steady warmth. He climbed the steps and kissed her, a soft, lingering press of lips that tasted of coffee and peace. Is she awake? He asked, his voice dropping to a whisper. Just went down for a nap. Ho-suk smiled, the expression crinkling the corners of his eyes. He walked past her into the living room, to the playpen set up near the fireplace. Inside, a 2-year-old girl slept, her dark hair a mess of curls, her fist clutching a stuffed tiger. She had Ho-suk's eyes and Anna's chin. Ho-suk leaned over the rail, watching his daughter breathe. The look on his face was one of terrified, overwhelming adoration. It was the look of a man who knew exactly how fragile life was, and who would burn the world down 1,000 times over to keep this one small flame burning. He felt Anna come up behind him, wrapping her arms around his waist, resting her head on his back. Any regrets? She asked softly. It was a question she asked once a year, on the anniversary of the day they ran. Ho-suk turned in her arms. He looked at the modest house, the sleeping child, and the woman who had taken a bullet for his soul. I lost an empire, he said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, his thumb grazing her old scar. And and I got the world in exchange." He kissed her forehead, pulling her close as the snow began to fall outside, covering their tracks, covering the past, leaving nothing but a blank white page for them to write on. "No regrets, Moy Angat," he whispered. "None."